Hello everyone, welcome to this channel. Today we are going to see view serializability of the chapter transaction. In the previous video, we have already seen the concept of conflict serializability. Now we will see view serializability. What is view serializability? View serializability is a process to find out that a given schedule is view serializable or not. To check whether a given schedule is view serializable, we need to check whether the given schedule is view equivalent to its serial schedule. Okay? And then we can say it is a view serializable schedule. Now this is the example. Let's take an example to understand what I mean by that. Given this is what the schedule having transaction T1 and T2 with certain instruction read write. Okay. Then I can say for this non-serial schedule, this is what my serial schedule. Okay. Serial schedule of the above given schedule is this, right? As we know that in a serial schedule, a transaction only starts when the current running transaction is finished. So if this transaction is finished, execution, then only this is starting, right? So this is what the serial schedule. So the serial schedule of the above given schedule would look like this. So it is looking like this, okay. Now, an important thing over here, if we can prove that the given schedule is view equivalent to its serial schedule, then the given schedule is called as view serializable, okay. If we can prove that this non-serial schedule, okay, is view equivalent, right, to its serial schedule, okay, it's view equivalent to its serial schedule, then we say that the given schedule is a view serializable schedule, right? Next, see, view equivalent. Let's learn how to check whether the two schedules are view equivalent. Two schedules, T1 and T2, are said to be view equivalent if they satisfy all the following conditions, okay? What we are doing here, we are checking whether the two schedules are view equivalent, okay? And these are the conditions. Very first one is what? Initial read. Initial read of each data item in transaction must match in both the schedules. For example, if transaction T1 reads a data item X before transaction T2 in schedule 1, then in schedule S2, T1 should read X before T2. Okay. So here, this is what the schedule 1 and this is what the schedule 2. Okay. Agar schedule 1 mein, okay, T1, transaction T1 reads a data item X before transaction T2. The same must be there in the schedule S2. T1 must read the data item X before transaction T2. So this is what the initial read. Okay. Read versus initial read. You may be confused by the term initial read. Here, initial read means the first read operation on a data item. For example, a data item X can be read multiple times in a schedule, but the first read operation on X is called the initial read. This will be more clear once we will get the example in the next section of the same article. Final write. Final write operation on each data item must match in both the schedule. For example, a data item X is last written by transaction T1 in schedule S1. Then in S2 also, the last write operation on X should be performed by the transaction T1. Okay. Third, update read. If in schedule S1, the transaction T1 reads a data item updated by T2, then in schedule S2, T1 should read the value after the write operation of T2 on the same data item. For example, in schedule S1, T1 performs a read operation on X after the write operation on X by T2. Then in S2, T1 should read the X after T2 performs write on X. This we can understand with the example. So here you can see we are checking that this schedule is view serializable or not. If a schedule is view equivalent to a serial schedule, then the given schedule is said to be view serializable. So this is what the example here you can see. So here this is schedule 1 and this is what schedule 2. Okay. We have to check all the three conditions for view equivalent. Very first one is what? Initial rate. Okay. Initial rate. तो आप यहाँ पे देख सकते हो in the schedule 1 T1 and T2 there are transaction T1 and T2. T1 is performing initial rate on data item X. ठीक है, initial rate किसने initiate किया rate करना data item X को, that is transaction T1. तो let's check schedule 2. Which transaction is the transaction which initiated read operation on X? Obviously here this is transaction T1. The first condition is satisfied. Next is what? Final write. Okay. Now see here. Final write on data item X. Okay. There are two data items X and Y. Let's see final write on data item X. So here you can see final write on the, this is the first write and this is the final write. Okay, this is the final write which is performed by which transaction? T2 in schedule 1. Here also let's see, obviously here this is the first write and this is the final write on the data item X, and who is performing this transaction? T2 is. That's why this is final write on data item X. Again here see who is performing final write on the data item Y. So here you can see this is the first write on the data item Y and this is the final write on the data item Y. Likewise here also you can see, here also this is the first write and this is the final write on the data item Y. Okay, now next is what? Update rate. Okay, update rate. So here you can see, I can say here, if transaction T1 is writing on the data item X, then T2 is reading the data item X. Okay, T1 लिख रहा है, T2 ने read किया. Let's see same is here or not. Yes, T1 is writing. Yes, ये वाला जो है हम लोग ये check करने वाले. Yes, and here who is reading this? Then T2 is reading this updated value. So obviously all the three conditions are satisfied. That's why here we say, thus we can say that the schedule S1 is view serializable schedule. Okay, that's why here we can say the schedule S1 is view serializable schedule. Okay, next. Transaction that performs a write operation without performing a read operation are called as blind writes. Okay. Now here you can see this is again the example over here. आपको यहाँ पे देखना है, this is what schedule 1, this is what schedule 2 and this is what schedule 3. तो हम लोग यहाँ पे देखेंगे, consider an example of view serializability. Schedule 1 is not view equivalent to schedule 2. Since in schedule 1 the value of account A read by transaction T2 was produced by T1, whereas this is not the case in schedule 2. Okay, try to understand this. In schedule 1, the value of account A read by T2. Okay, yeah, okay, this is what read by T2. Who produced this? This was produced by transaction T1. Okay, that means what? T1 is updating and T2 is reading. So here we can say this is not the case over here, right? Here T2 is writing and T1 is reading. So here we say that S1 is not view equivalent to its, okay, not the case in schedule 2. Schedule 1 is view equivalent to schedule 3. Yeah, this schedule 1 is view equivalent to schedule 3 because values of account A and B read by transaction T2 were produced by T1 in both the schedules. Okay. Thank you for watching this video.